right, Aloril. Thank you, Aloril. I was muted. Curses. Oh, good Lord. Oh well, that'll make the beginning of the stream less interesting, or maybe we can lip read. Ah, hilarious. Sorry about that, everyone. I was muted, but well, Aloril to the rescue, as always. Thank you, Aloril. That's really good. So many things to take care of. Yeah, what was I saying? Yeah, no, I mean, well, probably you guessed most of it. It was, yeah, Matt Bladchess, it's coming. The the voice is coming. Yeah, muted, was muted. Now, okay. Yeah, okay. Sorry about that, everyone. But there we are. Here we are. Here is the next opening. So let's get on to that. Oh, that's going to confuse people. I'll have to put a note in the, or maybe cut the video a little bit, I think. So what is this opening? So actually we go back. This is an opening that I've studied an awful lot, and we go back to 1994. Or is it 1993? Probably 1994, I think. And Joël Lautier, the French player, was playing a candidates match against Jan Timman in Weikensee. And it was a quarterfinals, I think, pretty important. And yeah, I mean, out of the blue, then Joël called me and said, fantastic Matt Bladchess. And called me to say, yeah, I mean, would you fancy working together and being my second for the match, which was sort of out of the blue. I was 25-60 at the time, GM, struggling, I'll free admit. I must have been about 18, 19. I was really struggling to get my rating higher. I think I had a decent reputation as a hard-working player, but yeah, you know, it was very surprised. But I suppose, you know, my mum's French, I speak French, so maybe that helped as well. But basically, you know, Joël wanted to use some of my openings against Timman, and one of them was the Queen's Gambit Accepted, which I'd already had quite a bit of success with. And yeah, the line that I played against one of the big lines, 3e4. That was, I played the unusual Chigorin-esque line, knight c6. Bishop e3, and this is one of the main lines, knight f6, knight c3, e5, d5, and knight e7. And yeah, I got quite a bit of analysis, and well, together with Joël, we did an awful lot more. And you know, these positions, I'd always felt with black that they gave a lot of unusual, difficult counter chances. You know, it was very complex, but you had chances on both sides of the board with a fixed center. And well, I convinced Joël, and it didn't. Yeah, I mean, I think yeah, it sort of went. It kind of went well. Because well, we actually got this game was actually played, which did Joël take the lead with this game? Possibly he did, actually. So this was the thing: Bishop c4, knight g6, Bishop b5 check, knight d7. That was my idea because normally, you know, black was playing Bishop d7 in this position, which was solid but passive. So I just wanted to keep the pieces on. I was very much like that in those days. Queen e7. I mean, I don't remember it anymore, and somewhere, I mean, my analysis must be on paper somewhere, but I don't know where it is. Maybe at my parents' house, who knows, in the loft somewhere. But we spent ages and ages analysing this. The subtleties of when to put the knight on f6, when not. h4, knight h5. This was always one of the key ideas that you just get your knight ahead of the g-pawn. Castles, bishop d7, and then b5. You know, we're just striking on both sides. And here Timman got a bit tempted. I think that was the point. He really felt that we were doing something inherently wrong, and tried to refute it. But actually, this was just really, really bad. b4. We're crawling all over the dark squares here. Timman tried something just to try and loosen up the position, but this was a very good move. I mean, Joël was with the initiative. He was extremely dangerous, a very strong calculator, Well, this position suited him down to a T, really. Rook b8, rook coming in, rook e1 f6, bishop c4, queen c5, and here Timon got a little bit desperate. He played this move d6, which was not a good idea. I mean, it gives the bishop on d5 a good square, but Joel just put his king on d8, and now actually what's happened is that this bishop on d6 has been really consolidated, and now you're just going to go f5, I mean, Joel just careered through here. It was quite a crushing win, and when you think, in these sort of candidates matches, a win with black in this fashion, it's pretty unusual, really, and it should have put us into a great state for the match, but somehow in the end, Joel lost the match. This was the nice tactic. Knight takes f3 and bishop takes c3. I mean, pins absolutely everywhere. Wow. Yeah, I mean, Joel lost the match, and I feel somewhat responsible. I mean, obviously, as a second, you're part of a team, you are responsible. But I mean, I do also feel responsible in terms of, I think I was a bit young. I didn't really have the big match experience. I think it would have been great to have an experienced player. I mean, I had all the energy and lots of ideas, and I was, working like a lunatic during the tournament. But I think a bit of an experienced figure to tell who's used to matches, because I mean, I'd never played a match like this at all ever in my life. That would have been very useful, just to tell Joel when to be calm, when to attack at the right moments. I think as it is, we just sort of played the same way pretty much all through the match, and Timon's match experience really played. But this was the opening. This was the basically the opening that I helped prepare Joel Luthier with it. Now, the really funny thing about it, well, I sort of felt really bad about it later. Because at some stage, I spent a lot of time after the match. I was looking at these lines. I spent all the time looking at knight e7, and then it suddenly struck me that there was maybe an even better move here, which was knight a5, and there was a very big idea to it, and the idea was knight f3, bishop d6, queen a4 check, and this was. I don't know whether knight e5 had even ever been mentioned in books, but I'm pretty sure that if it was, people thought you had to go c6, takes, knight c6, maybe rook d1, and white's better. Just a very unpleasant position with a bishop on d6 here. But I had the incredible idea, and if it was pre-computer, so that was it was pretty good, which was bishop d7, queen a5, and a6. And the incredible idea is, in fact, that I'm just threatening b7 to b6 here, which traps the white queen. And there's many ways of playing this, but actually this is just very good for black. Somebody did try, Yepishin tried this twice, in actual fact. Lord knows why he tried it twice. I mean, sacrificing the queen for two pieces. I think it also cost him first place in an open tournament. He lost a bad game to Alex Baburin in this, really. And I think he lost both games with white he played. I thought that knight a4 was the best to try and stop b6. And I'm not sure whether I was planning to play queen e7 or knight takes e4, which is again stopping the queen from moving back. But in this game I played it. Should have been a crucial game. I was black against Miguel Illescas at the Linares Zonal, and really this should have been the game that got me qualification. But I then screwed it up completely and didn't qualify in the end. But Illescas, very strong, 26-20, second, very strong theoretician. He got completely shocked. He went knight b1 to try and free his queen. I went knight takes e4, stopping the queen from coming back, again threatening this move b7 to b6, and he went king d1 to bring the queen back to e1, but he'd missed this move c3 with the idea of going knight c3 b6, and the queen is once again trapped. So he stared at the position for 10-15 minutes. I was expecting him to go b4, in this position. And then I go b6, queen a3, a5, queen c1, a takes b4, which looks probably about the best position I've ever had in a chess game. He looked at it for 10-15 minutes, and then he just resigned, shook my hand, and you know. But he was. I spoke to him many years after about that, and he said, "Well, actually, that was the best thing I could have done. Sometimes you just got to admit, yeah, this has all gone wrong today." He said, "But I felt very strong after resigning like this, and actually, he had a fantastic tournament and ended up winning the zonal tournament." And funnily enough, I do wonder whether this, you know, maybe skewed my thinking somehow, because somehow you know, I was expecting to win every game in 12 moves against strong grandmasters with black, and I really messed up a lot of promising positions against that, and I think somehow this maybe made me nervous in some way, you know, and but it was it was very unfortunate I didn't qualify for that, but okay, that's life. But this is my very fastest win against a grandmaster, and probably my best novelty. And I think it still, you know, stands to this day. I think it's still made this line basically not very, not good for white. But okay, I mean, knight a5 would be too good. Knight e7 is what I wanted, as I said, we're into these quite complicated positions now. I mean, this was one where I was sort of thinking. I mean, I can see Leela's evaluation. You know, it's not, it's below the 0.35, which she sort of aimed for. But it was one of those where I thought, you know, this is, looking at the games, the practice games that were played, they were pretty eventful, few wins in there. You know, I thought that this would be still be a decent one. Obviously now with the number of draws we've had and the defence that's being shown, I'm a tad nervous about that 0.34. But yeah, no, I mean, it was. I think I had 0.35 or something. But you know, I think that this should be a complicated game, and this should actually, in principle, I would have thought that this would be a pretty decent position for Leela. You know, you're playing on both sides, extra space, pawn on h4 there. So you know, I mean, this is probably a position that's a little bit more for Leela than for Stockfish. But yeah, we're going to see how it all goes. You know, so it's. But yeah, as I said, I was aware of the eval. But I just thought that looking at the games and how they progress, the complexity, you know, then I thought that this would be a good one to try. So, fingers crossed. Yeah, it's very difficult to get this right, really. You know, these openings. I mean, I think, you know, both Jeroen and I are really trying to sort of get as many normal positions as possible. You know, positions that would be played in human games. We're just trying to make sure that they're spicy enough, you know, to lead to wins and that sort of stuff. And difficult to know. I mean, on the other hand, I think, you know, there's been a few very tight games where some extraordinary defence, you know, has held the draws. There's also been a missed chance from Stockfish. So I mean, you know, from that point of view, I think the fact that that both engines are defending so well, I think has also maybe dampened the number of wins. I think maybe with Stockfish and Leela from a previous Sufi, this might well have. I think we would have had quite a few more wins probably. But okay, this is going to be an interesting one. So let's have a look at what's going on, because it's already got quite interesting. New game, and then don't worry, I'm not going to forget to switch the boards. Import, and sorry, did I hear a move there? Bishop takes c4. Okay, bishop c4. So knight e7. Now, I mean, I must say that I was always looking for with white. I was always looking for systems where I played I played f3, g3, and h4. That was what I was always looking for. So something like bishop takes c4. knight g6, maybe h4, or maybe just f3 first of all, just to keep the knight out of g4, and then to play let's say a6, then to play h4, and then to play g3. That was the oh good lord, it's the Mr. Dodgy bathtub structure again, isn't it, this one? But essentially just to dominate these two knights, and then afterwards play knight e2, queen d2, castle queenside, and yeah, just basically keep on playing. I mean, this is what I was always aiming for, and I mean, this is the type of thing that we were most worried about, with when I was analysing with Joel. And I think at some stage we decided we weren't going to repeat this opening, because we were worried that Timon would get a grip of it. Timon's a very strong strategical player, so and worked very hard at his chess. So we were a bit worried that we might get into trouble with this. But Leela's gone for something completely different. So putting the knight on f3, and after knight g6 playing h4, not fearing at all knight g4, which is quite interesting actually, because if the bishop goes back or whatever, then we've got bishop c5. So I'm just wondering what Leela was actually planning against that. Was Leela just planning something, maybe just something like h5 is possible, because if we take off, your knight might have to go back, then we could take on e5. Would probably be it's a bit annoying to give up the dark squares. On the other hand, this knight's got nowhere in particular. I mean, knight g8, I don't know. So Stockfish doesn't risk that, plays h5, and then Leela does its standard stuff of putting the knight onto g5. Black plays a6, always played, keeps pieces out of b5, and also threatens to keep the pawn. And so white takes with the bishop on c4. And I'm guessing bishop d6 now. Stockfish thinking of playing b5 very early. Interesting. So yeah, very interesting indeed. So b5 again. That's what happened in our game against Timon. And yeah, I mean, this was yeah, this is a major idea. Bishop b3, and then we're still threatening d6. So probably bishop d6 will follow. And now, sorry, I'm on the wrong board. Wrong board. Sorry about that. So let's have a look at that one. So, well, hopefully you got some sense of what I was talking about. Yeah, as I said, the moves with the lines with f3. This sort of structure was the one that I was most worried about, together with Joël Lothier, for that. But let's have a little look at the PVs, because I'm quite intrigued to see what exactly Leela is aiming for. Good lord, too dry for a win. My goodness, one of the most exciting lines I've ever played. So no, it really is an extremely interesting line, I have to say. But yeah, we will see how it all goes. So let's have a look at the PVs, and we will try. So b5, bishop b3, bishop d6, and the question is, are we going to castle kingside or queenside? Yeah, Leela's for castling queenside here. Now, what is Stockfish playing for? What is Leela expecting here? Yeah, I mean, the key question in these sort of positions is, does Black try and play c6? Certainly, I think with this sort of setup, the white piece is pointing towards d5, the knight pointing towards f7. I don't think you want to play c6. Absolutely not. So what Leela is expecting is quite interesting. Rook coming to b8, queen coming to e8, and then going a5 and a4. So really trying to gain some queenside space and yeah, keep the white pieces at bay there. That's a lot of weaknesses, I have to say, in the black position. And I like very much what Leela's doing here. The knight's drawing back to d1. Yeah, this is a very this theme is. I'm pretty sure we analysed this theme as well. The knight coming round to e3 and then into f5. So Leela expecting g6, and then we've got rook c1. So we're stopping c6, and we're going to start getting a few unpleasant little little moves like this, where we can tie down the black position completely. I mean, it's one of these positions where, yeah, I mean, maybe black can hold forever, but I'm not convinced about it because, for example, we're going to have plans like bishop f1 to h3, remove this this bishop, then we get hold of the c6 square, then this knight comes round somewhere like b4 or c5. I mean, it's really, I tell you, these positions are not trivial for black. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, Leela's PV looks strong for white to me. This sort of thing. So we're going to see. Let's have a look at Stockfish's PV. What Stockfish is thinking about. So knight e7, knight f6. In my test games, Stockfish was playing quite aggressively on the king side, I have to say. Knight h7, knight g6. Yeah, again, Stockfish is playing on both sides. Ah, wow! I recognise this theme. H4. We got this in. I got this in a test game as well. The position exploded completely, like this. You know, just the king side got blown apart. Lots of pawns. So crazy. I actually recognise. I don't know whether it's exactly this position, but it's pretty close. So, but this is the Stockfish PV, but Stockfish is much more kingside inclined there. I think, you know, again, I think it's kind of fitting the trend that we've seen in the yeah, Yantim and Vaikanze, yeah. It's I mean, I think yeah, I mean, I think Leela is tending to favour the more solid defence. I think, you know, the sit and take it. Like, for example, I mean, the Czech Benoni earlier in this match is a typical example. You know, Stockfish sacks pawns with a6, b5, and just tries to create counterplay regardless. And you know, Stockfish playing a lot more actively, often sacrificing exchanges and stuff like that. So, and I think this, you know, sort of fits. But I do think that, you know, black's got to be very careful about playing too passively in these positions. I think, you know, I think if, yeah, I think if white gets a grip of this position, then it's an extremely unpleasant position for black. You know, it's and many possibilities just to get, you know, some sort of awful old Indian structure. You know, if white ends up taking on d6 at some stage, swapping off the bishops or swapping a knight for the bishop, it can get you know, completely horrible. So you know, interesting, very, very interesting indeed, this. So but yeah, funny. Yeah, that's now disappeared from Stockfish's PV, but it's really funny to see that exact same position that I've had in a test game in my PV, in the PV here. So interesting. So Stockfish thinking at the moment, looking at what to do. Yeah, and again, actually, kind of expecting different stuff. Expecting Leela to come with a4. So small micro boom from Leela. Not so not amazingly impressed with knight g4. Yeah, it's one of those moves, really. I mean, you're going to get chased back at some stage or have to move back. So, yeah, you know. But when you move it, you disrupt a little bit. You know, it's always unclear what the net effect of that actually is. Let's just freeze it and have a look. Castles, castles. Rook c1, bishop d7. Leela now going for a4, which hadn't done up till now. Queen e8, king g2. The idea of king g2 is to be able to play f3 without allowing bishop c5 check. Knight f6, rook e1, interesting. Might be looking at playing f4 actually, not impossible. Rook d8, a5. Wow, that's a move I wouldn't think of in a hurry. Fixing the pawn on a6, but all the same. King h8, rook f1, rook c8, some slightly mysterious moves here. c5, yeah, this is one of these crucial ones where, yeah, you sort of, bishop f7, wow. Queen d6, queen d8, queen a5. Queen e6. I was going to say this looks disgusting to me, but for black. But there's a threat of queen h3 check at the end. Well, crazy stuff, crazy stuff. I don't know. I mean, this all got a bit random, really, but intriguing, intriguing. Just looking at what's the most recent PV. There, Leela looking to take on b5 and just target this. B5 pawn, and yeah, just anticipating Stockfish. Yeah, but Stockfish still trying to go for the kingside attack, which again is doesn't always happen, as we've seen, but this is pretty consistent with the with what I saw in my test games, that the Stockfish was going for a kingside attack, always going for the kingside play. So you know, that could be interesting. Could be interesting. And what's Stockfish's PV? It was just, yeah, that's a little bit more solid, I guess. Although black's still under unpleasant pressure here. You know, white's definitely somewhat better here, but a little bit quieter there, and this time Stockfish not getting its kingside breaks in. So we're going to see how that goes. I think this is a decent opening. It's going to be quite complex. Also going to be interesting. What was we don't really know what Stockfish was thinking about there. But yeah, this type of position, it was thinking vaguely similar. So we'll see how different it all turns out to be when Stockfish plays white and Leela plays black. But now we're going to see. So Leela still thinking. Definitely also Leela thinking about the kingside attack constantly. Although having said that, well, okay, let's have a look at the PV again. Castles, bishop d7, rook d8, king h8. The knight has to do a step back. Rook protects, slightly mysterious. King moves. Well, there we are. And then launches f5. Nobody knows precisely why at that moment, but yeah, I mean, f4 could come in afterwards. I mean, it's actually quite an unclear position, this. So interesting. I mean, a black win is not impossible, by the way, in this line, just because the positions are quite complex, and yeah, if black gets the kingside attack right, then it works out fine. So it's not completely impossible either. It's one of those lines. So Stockfish avoiding castling for now, and going to redeploy its knight. I mean, yeah, redeploy the knight. Obviously, this knight is left to g4, so you might think about playing f6, but then the knight comes into e6. So that's, yeah, I mean, that's obviously not possible for for black. So that's why black's always looking for this knight f6 to h7 maneuver, just to remove the knight on g5 and then to be able to play f5. Because until this knight on g5 is removed, black cannot create counterplay on the king side with f5. So let's have a little look. I'm just going to have a look at the betting. What is, I suppose you'd call the betting, you'd call it the chat confidence index. Let's have a look. Mr. Beads has only put 11,000 on a Leela win. So I think that if Mr. Beads tried to see whether he has faith in Leela or not, that he would get a negative reply there, I think. And then, yeah, 93% draw with some quite big bets. 20 people betted for a draw, 17 people on a win. Yeah, it would have been nice if maybe decisive result would have been a decent one there. But yeah, okay. That's it must be said, of course, with the current trend, with quite a few draws, then yeah, that so many people are betting on draws, I guess, is not unreasonable. But I mean, I would say that definitely later on, I think both Jeroen and I have got openings where you're pretty convinced that it's going to lead to wins. I mean, that is really it would be an absolute. It would be absolutely incredible if there's a few openings there that wouldn't lead to wins. But yeah, just we'll have to see how it all goes. But there's quite a few openings. You know, there's a number of openings a little bit like this, where complex, better for white, and yeah, you know, see how it goes. Yeah, I mean, it's actually quite interesting. I'm learning quite a lot from actually, you know, from just in general terms as well, from yeah, having chosen openings and then seeing engines playing them, just to see what the you know, what the reaction is. It's yeah, quite yeah, just very instructive actually. You know, it's also just seeing the you know, the yeah, the reactions of engines. I mean, it's just very interesting to see Stockfish, you know, sacrificing an exchange so often just to, you know, and then keeping playing actively and holding the draw. You know, I mean, that is really very, very impressive. And yeah, and then surprised that Leela is the one playing a little bit more passively in defence and just trying to hold positions. You know, go to a fortress or a draw. You know, it's you know, draw, pawn down, the rook ending or stuff like that. You know, it's quite surprised that Leela's doing that and not playing you know, as actively in defence. But interesting. It's I mean, I don't know. Yeah, it's hard to say. I mean, you know, I do have the feeling that yeah, that the, you know, the Stockfish here in the TCEC is yeah, playing very differently to versions that I've tested running up till here. But of course, you don't know, you know, how much does the hardware make a difference? You know, maybe an absolutely massive difference, and maybe it's not so much to do with the version, or yeah, difficult to say. I mean, the only thing that I did notice was that yeah, I said it before, and it sounds a bit, you know, obvious and stupid, but it is, you know, slightly surprising that yeah, you know, there's often a big difference in opening approach when you switch from Stockfish version. You know, you try an opening on one and it plays very, very attackingly, and then you try it on a version 2 or 3 releases later, and it's suddenly playing you know, the same opening quite quietly. And I mean, I hadn't expected, I hadn't expected it to be really noticeable. I mean, obviously you're getting improvements, and there might be, certain positions it then handles better that it didn't handle well before. But I hadn't really expected it to, the approach to change so much between versions. But seen it a number of times, so quite interesting. And it's also, probably, for non-GMs, if you don't really prepare chess openings a lot, then you wouldn't really think it made much difference, but it really does actually, because I mean, part of working with engines as a chess GM is that it's a tool, and you get to know, in a way, its weight, how it feels, how it reacts, and that, and there are certain things that you say, yeah, this engine never does well, I know that, and so I'll have to compensate for it in some way. And and so you sort of assume that the engine is static; it's getting stronger, but it's not changing in style. But yeah, testing with all these dev versions, you could see that happening quite reasonably frequently. I just found it very interesting, and but also slightly surprising. I hadn't expected it to that extent. Of course, this is all very subjective. It's just me looking and seeing what I do, and all on small samples, of course. I mean, I'm just playing probably a couple of pairs of long play games, between, for example, Stockfish and Leela, just to see how they're playing the opening. But still, under those conditions anyway, you see you sometimes see quite significant differences in between different versions. So Stockfish looking reasonably relaxed here in this position. Bishop d2 castles. Oh, let me see, I've probably locked some PVs here. I certainly have. So what's Leela looking at? Castles, knight e7, rook c1. Yeah, I mean, I think the next moves are going to be pretty, and then there's this move f5, a5 as well, and then expecting f5 from Stockfish to start getting some kingside play moving. It's pretty unclear, this one. On the one hand, black is getting some play. On the other hand, that's a lot of weaknesses. That really is a lot of weaknesses there. So, but yeah, Leela expecting some significant resistance in the center here. So yeah, looks like a sharp game. Yeah, and Leela veering continually between playing this a5 move or just taking on b5 and trying to target this pawn. Will be interesting to see which one it goes for there. Stockfish's PV is not too illuminating at the moment, so yeah, I mean, in some ways, casting queenside would have been quite interesting as well, but obviously more risky. I mean, black does have a couple of pawns which he can throw into the mix, but it's not 100% clear how dangerous that is. I mean, probably if you'd gone to castle queenside, you might have put your bishop back on d3 just to get the the pawn out of the way of these the bishop out of the way of these onrushing pawns. But that could have been quite interesting. Very big tree from Leela. 55 million nodes there. So just have a look in the chat to see. Oh, the fortress! What I think of the fortress by Leela in game 34. Yeah, that was incredible. That was. Oh, we can have a quick look at it actually, can't we? Let me just bring that one up on a different boards, and then I'll switch to that. Yeah, I have to say I'm pretty astounded by that. I mean, in particular, Where what was I looking at? Yeah, okay, let's go to there. Yeah, I mean, this was well, it was a great moment, I have to say. Knight g5. So h takes g5. I mean, I can't say that it would have. Well, I would have been really been very unsure of myself whether you know, this sort of trade of rook for of queen for rook and two pieces, you know, could be good. You know, I would have. I think normally I would have assumed that there's maybe you know, a little bit of play for white. You know, quite a bit of activity, stuff I can hit, but I don't think I would have been ever been confident enough to play this. You know, thinking that probably there's some way to get out of this that I haven't seen. But yeah, if Stockfish is confident about it, then well, it's certainly not going to be easy to get out. And but this was a quite incredible plan, this one. So c5 h3, and then I mean, you know, black's key problem here is you know, how to get its pieces active and how to restrict the queen's invasion channels. Because I mean, you know, Stockfish is fantastic with its queen at fighting against rook and minor piece or pieces, and this move was quite incredible. Again, I don't think it's something that I could ever have thought of myself. And it's just this move, knight e6 afterwards, and just essentially the idea is, you know, don't exchange off pawns on the queen side. Don't give you know, the white queen room to start maneuvering and hitting multiple things. Just you know, block the whole queen side with white's pawns, and then just sit there and wait for however long it is. And that's quite an amazing concept. I haven't seen it ever before. I really haven't seen it. I mean, it makes you wonder whether c takes b6 was bad. Somebody on my Twitter feed suggested c6, for example, and that doesn't look silly at all, I have to say. Yeah, I'm not quite sure. I have to have a look, you know, to see exactly what Leela was intending there. But certainly c takes b6 looks so natural. I think also in a game I wouldn't have been able to resist playing it. But then yeah, just simply waiting, and there's no entry point along the b file, no entry point along this e3 a7 diagonal, and this knight and bishop cover. I mean, a quite astonishing array of entry squares, even the f8 square behind the king, you know. So I mean, really, it was really beautifully judged from Leela, and yeah, it would be interesting to see whether yeah, Leela and as white can make anything of this. But it's hard to say. I mean, I think if you're going to make anything of it, obviously you're going to need a pawn break, and it's going to be something with h4, and you know, it should be something to do with somehow stretching the black position, so that you can you know, threaten to invade on the king's side and then invade on the queen's side, or vice versa. But actually, you know, there's no entry points on this on the queen side. So actually, it's probably, I imagine there's simply not possible to stretch the you know, the black position to that degree that you can invade with the queen. I mean, something like g3 f4. You know, maybe sack the pawn to draw the knight away so that you can invade on c7, for example. That might be something decent, but yeah, I mean, it's got to work, of course, and probably if you go something like g3, I just go rook d4. You know, I think if there's a win in this position, then it's unbelievably subtle, you know, and super complex and precise and all those sort of things. So I'm certainly not going to find it, I think, but yeah, I mean, it's really really quite an amazing game there. I thought that was a bit of a defensive classic there. So Knight e7 from Stockfish. Was this knight e7 move doing? It's two things really. It's well, supporting the f5 pawn, also allowing you to play g6 to defend h5 if necessary. It's also attacking d5 and supporting the c7 to c6 break. So black could possibly try and do this, although the c7 to c6 break is quite risky, you know, with the bishop on b3 and the knight on g5. That's a lot of pressure that's suddenly getting opened up against the against the pawn on f7. So yeah, not 100% clear about that one. So we're going to see how Leela wants to do this. Leela's still looking at various things. Rook c1, bishop d7. I mean, I must say I did like his plan very much of yeah, you know, bring queen to e2, king to g2, f3, and go bishop e3 afterwards. Look to regroup this knight somewhere. a4 is a little bit strange, maybe, in a way. I don't know whether you really want to do this. I don't really understand this rook e1 and rook f1 maneuver, really. That seems a little bit mysterious. King h8 g8 is also a little bit mysterious, but yeah, I mean, here in actual fact, this is a little bit like trading the a pawns on b5, because black picks up this this pawn afterwards anyway. Bishop d6, rook a5, rook b8. Yeah, still quite a bit of pressure there. You know, black's not free from white's grip yet, so still quite a bit of work to do to come to equality. So we're going to see. We're going to see whether this leads anywhere. I said I got quite exciting games in. They sort of caught fire, you know, around move 25-30, when Stockfish started pushing kingside pawns. So that would be a bit of a thrill. Leela actually thinking for quite a long time in total. I mean, until now, Leela's been very, very fast. Although I'm wondering whether, I'm wondering whether Leela tends to play fast in tactical positions. Crazily enough, I mean, because yeah, you know, here in this strategical position, it's taking quite a long time. I just wonder about those tactical positions, whether you know, Leela gets sort of pushed into one path maybe more quickly with a tactical position, and then starts yeah, just sees that one path, analyzes it to a great depth, and then it'll never change anything else. Whereas maybe with these strategical positions, there's many more transpositions, you know, many more yeah, things like that need to be considered, and it just ends up spending more time. I don't know, but it is quite noticeable, you know, that yeah, it's a position where you've really got to think a lot about, you know, where you're going to put all your pieces, and Leela's spending a lot more time, and there's no clear, you know, tactical way to do anything in this position. So Leela still thinking, moving a little bit to 0.30. Slightly surprised in a way. I mean, if he's just in general, certainly from a human point of view, you'd really say this is a very pleasant position for white to play. That would be that's the current thinking about it. You know, it's one of those, you know, this is more a risky opening that you play in order to you know, just get a complicated and unclear game. So it's not a solid one, this one. So slightly surprised to see just a 0.30 evaluation. But it's not. I would have expected it to be increasing, if anything. Let's have a look at Stockfish's PV. I haven't had a look at that for a while. What is Stockfish thinking here? Well, let's just release Leela. Knight e7, a4, bishop d7, queen e2, takes rook c1. Stockfish looking for this. Bishop c2's strange. I mean, I'd be looking to go something like knight d3 to c5 as quickly as possible. But bishop c2, rook a5, b3, intriguing. Queen g6, and now f5. Yeah, I mean, Stockfish looking to launch something. To be honest, yeah, again, I'd if I was white in this position, I'd be assuming that I'm doing extremely well here. But obviously, Stockfish doing something. Ooh. Sorry, wondering about an exchange sacrifice on c7, but rook ca1, queen f5, knight f2, queen f7, rook a8. I don't know. I still quite like white actually. This king is pretty weak, and yeah, quite a few chances to get pieces like the knight on g5, for example. Doesn't look so pleasant for black to me. But yeah, obviously I'm not quite at the level of these engines, so and I'm also not silicon, so have slightly different feelings about it. But oops, board's missing. But yeah, still, you know, I think that white has got some still got some pretty serious chances here. So we'll see how it goes. Leela spending a lot of time here. Yeah, quite interesting. Just you know, the concept of natural moves. You'd say that you know, certainly for a human, I think an experienced human player, you'd say something like you know, rook c1, king g2. These would be moves that you'd play pretty quickly. Rook c1 just to bring a rook to the open c file, king g2 to get out of any bishop c5 checks and give yourself f3. You know, those could be pretty automatic moves really, and yet you see, yeah, you know, the engines can spend ages and ages on them. Probably, you know, I suppose the one thing you might think about is, would I want to play my rook f to c1 if I'm going to play a4? I mean, I think that's the one reason that I'm a little bit slightly confused about Leela's plan, because you know, it's playing this rook to c1 and then it's playing a4, you know, and then afterwards maybe something like ab in order to open up the a file, which well, kind of feels like the wrong way around really. But yeah, obviously they can be you know, very specific reasons for doing stuff like that, but yeah, still quite quite interesting. I have to say, it's quite a different feeling watching the SuperFinal when you've prepared some of the openings for it. It's certainly you feel very very nervous and protective of your of the engines playing. You sort of think, come on guys, you know, make me look good. So it's yeah, no, quite a different experience really, and also not that much of that surprise really. It's I think I've sort of managed to forget the order in which Jeroen's openings are coming, so that's quite nice. That's still a surprise when Jeroen's openings come out, but obviously yeah, mine I remember, so it's all slight worry and anticipation. Let's have a look. Leela really going deeply into this line. With this idea of going a5 and clamping down on the a6 pawn. I mean, I suppose ideally Leela would want to play a move knight a2 into b4, targeting a6 and also targeting c6. But probably if you go knight a2, you'll just get hit by c6 or c5. So this is quite funny. This king h8 to g8. And then you know, when white goes f3, White's queen is no longer attacking the h5 pawn. So that's why black at that moment plays knight h7, tries to get rid of the knight, and then start doing the kingside attack. I mean, this f3 from white, which is a pretty natural move, you know, and that's the signal for black to yeah, to start attacking. I mean, you do sort of wonder, actually, you do sort of wonder in this position whether, you know, wouldn't white have a few more extra moves before playing f3, a few more useful ones. I don't know, you know, something like queen e2 or you know, something like that, because it you know, f3 knight h7, that seems to be black's only plan, really, you know, because he's been playing king h8 to g8 all the time. So you would have thought that you could find a better move than that. I mean, another thing that, yeah, you sort of wonder about a little bit is a move like f4. That is incredibly loosening, but it still does look a little bit dangerous. For whom, though? Maybe just for me. It's but yeah, I don't know. You could maybe preface it with queen e1. Oh, a4 immediately. Okay. So that changed just a little bit, but it's probably going to transpose into those lines. Funny, Stockfish's PV, you know, that you see it was looking at bishop d7, AB, queen e2, rook b8, and then, you know, the rook's occupying the a file, and then you move it off. It's really quite strange. Sometimes hard to really predict that, but I wouldn't have thought you'd take on b5 too early. I think you'd sort of you know, keep the tension for now, and I mean, if white's got more space, then, you know, in principle you're the one who dictates matters a little bit more. So you're the one who decides whether the tension gets released or whether it's kept in the position. And because you've got more space, that should also mean that you're better able to react to any changes in the position. Obviously, plenty of tactical things in there, but yeah, you know, just still, in general, that should be the case. But we really, I think we're really. Oh, look at Stockfish. Stockfish is expecting some play here. Was expecting some play, and then just when I wanted to look at it, it changed. So yeah, I don't think this is the plan that Leela's going to play here. Stockfish looking for this idea c6, and then but always f5. I mean, at some stage, Stockfish is going to go for something on the king side. To be honest, this looks really ropey for black. Everything feels really loose, but of course, if somebody can keep it together, it's going to be Stockfish. Ooh, rook c8. That's quite a nice little idea. Rook c8, the idea is queen c8, queen takes h5, but we interpose rook f2. Actually, this also looks quite... it's an ending, but some difficulty you might have thought. Just weak pawns that you can attack with the two bishops, but yeah, interesting. Here Stockfish going for f5 very early, getting rid of those knights, and again ooh, lining up like this. Okay, queen e3, and then rook g8. Interesting. That's that's less interesting, with an opposite colour bishop ending there. Of course, they're not all drawn, but I'm not sure. This one's maybe some chances still, because I mean, we can play g4, we can create a pass pawn on the h file, and this king's a little bit awkward, and we're also tying down the b pawn. I don't know. Not clear to me. And of course, you know, yeah, you know, of course, it's always the thing that what worries a human is not the same thing that worries an engine, of course. But Yeah, Leela moving slowly to 0.29. Stockfish also going down slowly. Didn't like his position at all at the start, but 0.95. But yeah, going sort of toodling along at the same level all the time. So yeah, I mean this move Queen E8 in the PV, it's actually slightly sneaky. I mean it really exploits the fact that White's played A4 and then put his rook over to C1. So just by attacking the pawn on A4, so if you move your queen away now, then you've got B takes A4. So that's why, you know, it's forcing White to make some sort of decision on the queen side. And now, interestingly enough, Stockfish was always looking at A takes B5, but now it's looking at A5 as well. So we're starting to get the further they think, the more they're converging on what they want to do. Then what sort of position have we got? Oh, okay. This is quite interesting. Let me just because it's Stockfish thinking, isn't it? So here, Stockfish thinking of just sacking an exchange. Where have we seen that before? Just sacking the exchange and then playing for compensation, which is an interesting one, I have to say. I wouldn't normally have thought that you've got full compensation for the exchange here, but I'm guessing you're going to play E4, then try and invade on these light squares somehow. Maybe that is quite dangerous, but it's not 100% clear to me, I have to say. What is Leela still looking at? Leela's looking at yeah, this F3 move. Some subtle shuffling that gets you the A6 pawn in return for the A5 one, and then just a little bit of control. Bishop coming to B3. This is when it gets crucial, really, because I mean this is a real hook for the white pieces on the queen side. So you know, it's not like nothing is ever going to happen. I mean, really, something is going to happen at some stage, because White's going to be threatening to win a pawn on the queen side, and here Black is going for it big time. This does not look too convincing, I have to say, for Black. But these lines, yeah, I mean we're often seeing them in Leela's PV. Just this move Queen E6 coming round to H3, and yeah, White's unfortunately missing a little bit of defense for the king. This could be quite risky, of course, as well. So, I mean, like I said, I mean there were some there was a Black victory as well in these in my test games, just because yeah, the kingside initiative got yeah, became too strong. So yeah, there is some risk for both sides in this line. So what's Stockfish looking at now? Wants to force F3. Okay, and then okay. So one interesting thing there. I mean, what Stockfish really wants to do there, I mean, it's obviously always looking for knight H7. H5 is hanging, so there it's looking for bishop G4, F3, bishop D7, and having forced that, it goes knight H7. So that's quite interesting. And then what are these maneuvers? Whoa, F4. Wow, that indeed is a move. That's quite an interesting one as well. That leads. Well, this is a really sharp position. A sort of position that could then turn up to be horrific for Black, because your king's too weak. I would think I'd be clearly worse as Black if I played this position, but yeah, who knows? We'll have to see. But interesting what all the engines are thinking of at the moment. So Queen E8 was played. I think these are all moves that we're expecting now, and then yeah, I mean, I wouldn't expect Leela to spend too long on that move. I think Queen E8 was more or less what Leela was expecting. So yeah, King G2 is pretty much going to be it, I think. Okay. Recent test shows, thanks Final. A recent test shows that having 2 times more time is about 3 ELO worth for Stockfish 14. Okay. Interesting. Hi Vinyl. Yes, indeed, the Laurels test is really very interesting as well. Just it's yeah, these OCB positions, they're quite they are quite they are definitely very tricky to get right, because you know, some of them are winning as well, and you know, I mean, I think that certainly, you know, when Leela started getting very strong, and well, you also saw this in the AlphaZero Stockfish games, there was you know, a sort of a burst of interest, I think, again in opposite coloured bishop positions, but especially those with multiple major pieces on, you know, and I mean, what's kind of known in human circles, you know, that opposite coloured bishops are strong if you're attacking, but yeah, maybe, you know, sometimes some of that knowledge gets I don't know, forgotten, or it gets you know, there's so many other things that happen that some knowledge gets sort of a little bit buried or something, and then you know, you get some examples and it suddenly looks clear again. Oh yes, and then you know, you start seeing more and more happening. You know, people are more and more willing to play them. But I think we've gone back now to opposite coloured bishops being you know, sort of being more likely to provide a draw than a win. So I can't remember any. I'm trying to think recently, really good opposite coloured bishop position games. Where the opposite, despite opposite coloured bishops, it was just a clear win for one side. There were quite a few in previous Sufis, and I know that you know, Leela was often converting by going to an opposite coloured bishop ending with rooks on, and then winning the ending. But seems to be happening. I have the feeling it's happening a lot less at the moment. But maybe it's, you know, it's one of those things that probably you know, Stockfish is anticipating them better as well, and also avoiding them a bit more. So Leela has played King G2. We're sort of losing a centi pawn every move, which is a little bit upsetting. But yeah, I'm still claiming that there is plenty of life in this position. So certainly the PVs look pretty. Yeah, they don't look clear. Put it that way. They look quite full of life. Okay, Stockfish moving back to f6, just anticipating being chased away with f3 at some stage, and getting ready to play knight to h7. So what was Stockfish's thought about this? Rook e1, rook d8, takes, f3, knight h7, and then in it's coming with f5. And yeah, it's going to be, you're going to start seeing Stockfish trying to do some hitting on the king side here, which is, yeah, obviously quite a crucial moment, I would say. What is Leela looking for? Leela's looking at a5. King h8, rook f1, and sort of expecting black to shuffle around for a while. Actually just looking for a pawn sacrifice, which is actually a very interesting one. The bishop comes to c5. This bishop is a little bit out of play, and black also finds it very difficult to play c6, so that's a very interesting one. By the way, is Crystal is only Linux, isn't it? I think. it's not a problem. I've got some Linux machines where I run Qt Chess and other stuff, but there's no as far as I'm aware, there's no Windows version. I think it's only Linux. It's just I got just in case I get asked about it, because I've been tweeting a little bit about Crystal and all that, so I just wanted to be sure that but I could only see a Linux version, so that might be a slight problem for my Grandmaster colleagues. Yeah, St. Jukes, it's sort of always difficult to say with these things. Yeah, I'm never quite sure about small sample size, because let's say I don't understand it very well, I think, but we always have the feeling that playing long games like this takes out quite a bit, or somewhat of the random effect. It's that if you play 100 games of Blitz, then it's more random than 100 games of long play. That's what I think. I'm not 100% sure I'm right with that. I'm not. I don't have any clue. Oh, okay, Laurel. Okay, fantastic. Then that's interesting. I might have a go, and then maybe write some instructions for various people. Because it would be nice. Yeah. I mean, I think Crystal. I was very impressed, in that Fortress game, that Crystal detected it so early, really. So yeah, and I haven't used it at all. I just always seen it in the as a TCC kibitzer, and I just want to start using it for myself as well. So yeah, I mean. I mean, vinyl. That would be absolutely amazing. But yeah, I mean, I obviously I'm going to try and do it myself as well, because yeah, whenever a new version comes out, then that should be obviously it's better to be able to do it yourself, and but yeah, I mean, that's also, I'm an IT guy, so I really should I should be able to do that, sort of vaguely professional pride. But yeah, but fantastic. I'm going to try and do that, because I've really that's something that I'm missing somehow. And yeah, I mean, I keep on I keep on talking to people about having an engine arsenal. So it's like all your weapons when you're playing. I keep on watching my nephew playing Minecraft, and somehow you sort of think, when sort of in your rucksack you've got your Leela, you've got your Stockfish, you've got your Crystal, and you've got your Stockfish, and you've just got to bring them out at the appropriate moment, and and that should be like some sort of toolbox that you've got, and that you can wield effectively and apply at the right moment. So yeah, so Crystal is definitely something that I've seen there. It's Lemon River, I think there's still a big gap, actually. I mean, to perfect play, because oh, need help, they can come to the Stockfish Discord. That's a great tip. Thanks, Final. I said I'm going to give it a go myself. If I get stuck, I'll go to Stockfish Discord, and then maybe I can try and write some simple explanations that then everyone could use, because I think it would be great, to try and make just to tell people a bit more about Crystal, because I think I think it's a fantastic tool, and it seems to be, it works, looks to be working so well. Just just feel really ashamed that I haven't made an effort beforehand on this. But no, I think there's still quite a big gap to perfect play. It's just that you see, just stuff like the opposite color bishop things, where Stockfish is being over optimistic for the side with opposite color bishops. There's you sort of think, well, if that gets fixed, what other things could be fixed before? There might just be a big increase in strength, because you start avoiding those positions, and you also assess them better when you're defending. So I do think that there's still, bizarrely enough, still a very big amount of improvement that can be made in the current engines. And I'm, I am frankly astounded at how much improvement people keep on managing to make. It's just, I do think, the funny thing was, sort of 4 years ago or something like that, you're already sort of thinking, oh God, so Stockfish is so far in advance of what I can do. It must be pretty much close to optimal play already. And yet, if you look at the versions, that was, I suppose, part arrogance, I suppose. You think you're a good player, and you think, well, if something's that much better than me, it can't get much better, really. But then, you look at the engines from 4 years ago; they get completely destroyed by these. So, yeah, I mean, really amazing how this progress keeps on going. That's quite interesting. Leela gave up its idea of A5. And has played A takes B5, which, to be honest, I do think is probably the most sensible. I mean, it makes sense to have a target there to attack. But now the plan has sort of switched a little bit there. So Leela's not playing F3, and Stockfish is not forcing F3 either, and playing now for to weaken the D5 pawn. Stockfish looking more and more positive. It looks very risky. It looks incredibly risky to me, I have to say. I mean, you're opening up the bishop on C2, towards the king here. This knight on F6 is a little bit vulnerable. It does not look, it does not look great for black to me. But somehow, because it's Stockfish, you you sort of assume that it's all under control. But it's quite, I don't know. I mean, these types of positions, I'd be so worried if I was black. But Stockfish feels that these are sort of fine. Yeah, we're gonna see. But I mean, the one big positive thing I think about what Stockfish has done, and maybe this is the essence of it, is that this bishop has come to G6 by some miracle. And this is a great square. I mean, it defends F7, defends H5. So, all of a sudden your king's a lot safer. I mean, I'm not particularly happy about this knight on G5, which pins the king to the back rank. But I think that White's big problem in this position is this dark squared bishop, which is really struggling to find proper employment. I mean, if you could get it to a square like D4 or C5, then I think you've got a really serious advantage. But looking at it here, it's not getting there. So I mean, the dark squares, black swaps off the dark square bishop. This is this is where this guy should be completely mighty, but there's just no good spot for it. So Leela's evaluation falling here. So again, quite interesting. I mean, incredibly interesting. But in terms of obviously producing a win, I'm feeling slightly less impressed with myself. I mean, what did Stockfish really do that was amazing? I suppose it's just this hardly obvious maneuvers, but it played this it brings the. I mean, knight g4 was just some random distraction, really. You know, I mean, just chasing away the bishop from e3. But really, this yeah, this little huddle in the centre here, the queen coming to e8, rook coming to d8, knight on e7 and f6, attacking d5, and then there's kind of two ways that the Stockfish can expand. Either knight h7, get rid of this knight and play for f5, which was what I saw in my test games, or on the queen side, expanding and then playing this c6 move, which I think we're going to see pretty soon. So very, yeah, very flexible, compact, yeah, sort of mini powerhouse here in the centre, and there seems to have been, yeah, seems to have been very strong. No, Moronocracy. I mean, it's. I said I've played and analysed these positions with black a lot, and I never felt comfortable. In particular, I never felt comfortable playing c7 to c6. I mean, we've had just. I think there was one Vichy game or something where this happened as well. Vichy against Vallejo. Let me just have a little look to see whether I can find some games that that remind me of that. I seem to remember this one, and White games. I'm pretty sure it was against the Spanish Grandmaster Vallejo. He's beaten him quite a few times as White. Let's have a look. This one, how about that? Yeah, I think that's, let's have a little look at that. Edit, paste PGN, import. Yeah, okay, let's go to this board. So this is the game Anand against Vallejo. Slightly different move order for White here. I actually thought this one was stronger, but somehow my engines weren't convinced about it at all. I thought this was a slightly better move order for White, but yeah, my engines weren't convinced, so that's why I didn't go for it. But it's a good example of what I've always been afraid of as a human player. Although I actually think that my engines here were somehow they were achieving c6 in a better way and vaguely achieving some sort of equality. But this is what you're always afraid of. You know, just this position, and then you play c6, and then you end up in this type of position. And this is actually a very unpleasant situation for a human player. I mean, you've got the White's got real control of the central light squares. Bishop on d6, hampered by the pawn on e5, and yeah, White's got control of the d file. Invasion square on b6. Just yeah, knight on g6, a bit vulnerable to h4 to h5. Very difficult position, and Vichy beat Vallejo, who's yeah, very strong grandmaster. He beat him in trivial fashion, really, just getting on the light squares around the center. Knight e7 allows a3, which wins a piece. So Vallejo, sort of tried to distract the white pieces a bit, but Vichy just basically absorbed the pressure and then came back. And then started pressuring, and there's never any immediate mating threats, but just the pressure keeps on increasing. Now h4 comes in, and all of a sudden it's completely lost. So this is the sort of thing that as a human player, you're these positions feel very, very fraught for black. So yeah, obviously that that an engine's got a slightly different take on it, but I did sort of hope that some of that feeling that humans have, would sort of remain in the engine evaluation, but somehow but it is quite strange. I mean, it was 0.35 out of the opening, and but it's just gradually gone down really, and yeah, I mean, this is one of the things I was wondering if it was possible somehow to gauge this from Leela's evaluations, whether it thinks that a 0.35 evaluation at move 6, for example, is that one that's going to increase? Has it got an upward trend in it, or is that one that's just going to decrease? This is it's fine, but as you go along in the middle game, it'll gradually get eroded away, and all that you'll be left with at the end is a 0.15, just a nominal advantage. But now all the dynamism has been taken out of the position, and it was all that it ever was, just a slight advantage. The Stockfish is, I think the Stockfish is getting ambitious here. I think Stockfish is starting to think about massing on the king side. Knight coming into g6. What's Stockfish going for? Knight c4, bishop g4. Ooh, bishop c5. Sacking a pawn, but we've got some knight h4 check ideas. Knight e3, rook c8. Knight e5. Queen b5. Some sort of... and then we get the opposite coloured bishop ending. Boo! So... we'll have to see. I don't know. I mean, there's definitely, with this move e4, there's definitely chances for some sort of counterplay on the king side. So could be interesting. Leela's expecting something a little bit more sedate, I suppose. Just more of these exchanges. Again, look at tiny bit fraught. What a it just seems in this game that first Stockfish has bunched, and now Leela wants to bunch on the B and C file. It looks a little bit risky, to be honest, but presumably getting away with that as well. All right, still some. I think there's still some potential for some excitement here. Yeah, bookless games. It's always very yeah, very tempting for that, but actually it just doesn't, the games just aren't interesting. That's also the problem. I mean, I think, in the old days, bookless, you might have got some interesting games, but I think with the opening position being this level and the engines being so strong, they're just they're not going to make any serious mistakes really. So you really do get draws and not particularly interesting games. Leela's still thinking. I've gone quite deeply in this weird pieces bunching on the queen side mode. So yeah, that's absolutely true. Bookless for qualification league was working very well. That's true. that was exciting. I love the qualification league. It's sometimes I you know, you sort of think, oh come on, we want to get to the Sufi, we want to see the big fight, but actually the qualification league is fantastic. I mean, it's great being able to watch games from engines where, you know, occasionally you can see more than the engine, you know, and you can spot a mistake coming or whatever. I mean, they're getting stronger and stronger, but still, it's all a little bit random and all that. And it's great. I think that's wonderful that TCC does this. It's so Leela's still thinking, and evaluation still dropping there. Been quite yeah, I mean, if you look at this eval, just been, you know, started at a decent level in a way, but then just downward trend all the way, and yeah, Leela hasn't really managed to make anything of this, which again, slightly surprising. I thought this could be a position that would suit Leela. You know, more space, play on both sides of the boards. With a fixed centre, yeah, in principle should be able to do something with that. But yeah, Stockfish has played very nicely. I think, you know, this strange bunch manoeuvre with the pieces has been very effective. A lot of compressed energy in there, I think. You know, so yeah. Be interesting to see what Leela does after Stockfish's next move, because it's not expecting knight g6. So yeah, I mean, it's a very interesting line from Stockfish, but unfortunately, you know, quite interesting pawn sacrifice. You know, White's pieces are a little bit somehow over on the queen side, and you've got an open g file, and you've got knight takes h4 ideas, and all of that. But somehow it just ends up in an opposite coloured bishop ending, really, which is a little bit sad, really. Stockfish assessing that as 0.38 now. So what is so interesting to see what happens there. But yeah, I mean, I think how exciting the game becomes depends a little bit on Leela's response to knight g6. On the other hand, you know, what else does after knight g6? What else does Leela really have? What else does Leela really have apart from knight c4? Not really that much, I don't think. I mean, you know, this bishop. I mean, really, you know, this bishop is very passive, and this knight is in the way. So if you don't move this knight, I've really got no idea what you're going to do there. So yeah, it does indeed look as if there we are. It looks like Leela has found Stockfish's line now. So I think we are unfortunately going to be heading to a pretty even position. Oh well, Leela temporarily wanted to do something different, but I think we're now pretty much going for a very long PV agreement now. So down to this point, and then it's just a question of how you force White to take the knight on c4. So yeah, this is just a transposition, the difference here. So yep, bit of a shame there, bit of a shame. So I mean, by the way, the big threat there, let me just put this on the put it on the board. So the big threat here was that, if you played some random move like rook a1, you're going to go knight h4 and bishop f3 check. Then if king f3, you've got queen g4 checkmate, which is quite nice. So there is quite a bit of danger on the king side here, which is obviously why White's taking some defensive action there just to prevent that. So yeah, this is looking like they're agreeing, and it's just going to be liquidation to an opposite coloured bishop ending with rooks on, but not to. Thanks, Final. Thanks for all the chat. Yeah, so what can we expect from Stockfish in the reverse? Let's have a little look at my at some of my test games, and we'll see what Stockfish came up with there. So yeah, in my test games, let me just put a few things on. I haven't got them a minute. Let's just grab this. PGN, F4, edit, paste, import. So yeah, I mean, actually pretty similar really. I mean, bishop c4, knight g6, h4, h5, knight f3 was one Stockfish game against Leela, and then afterwards, funnily enough, knight f3, knight g4, knight g5. Stockfish not at all afraid about allowing this. Bishop d6, and I think went queen a4 check, I think. Bishop d7, bishop b5, with slight advantage that Leela managed to hold, but wasn't amazingly pleasant for black. Also got some games against Komodo, quite similar. Let's have a look. We got yeah, we got bishop d6. Well, actually, is that right? Did Stockfish really play knight h3 in this position, or am I missing something? Ah, no. Okay, so we got against Komodo, we got bishop c4, a6. h4, h5, knight h3, just to be different, knight g6, knight g5, bishop d6, g3. So quite, actually quite similar to this. Knight g4, bishop d2, bishop c5, castles, and queen d6. That's quite a common way of developing. You're just going queen d6, bishop to d7 afterwards. Queen to b3, castles, rook c1. Yeah, and here Komodo took a bit of a risk with takes, rook e8, rook c2, and well, was a question as to whether this pawn would be a weakness or a strength. But actually, even if you lose it, you've got huge light squares, and Komodo didn't do very well from this position. But it looks basically that yeah, in terms of what I'd be expecting from Stockfish, it's a similar sort of plan to what Leela did. So just see whether there's any more interesting games in there. Oh, actually, that's quite interesting. Actually, one game where Stockfish actually played the system I was talking about, that kind of worried me really. So H5, just playing G3, Knight G6, and then F3. So Stockfish tried this against Komodo as well, and then afterwards you just follow up with Knight H3 to F2 castles, and then just start playing against all these squares, and that worked out quite well as well. But probably we're expecting something on the positional side from Stockfish there. No queenside castling or massive kingside attacks. So knight takes c4, queen d7, and then basically after this move, queen d7, knight f6 takes. This threat of knight h4 and bishop f3 is too dangerous. So black needs to take some. So white needs to take some action for that, and that's going to be knight e3. So yeah, interesting. Surprised in some ways. It's these positions always felt quite difficult for black, but yeah, this whole plan that Stockfish came up with, queen on e8, rook on d8, quite interesting. Just really, yeah. I mean, it's quite. It's a little bit like there was a Canadian player called Duncan Suttles, who was a very unusual player, played all sorts of strange things, but always remember one of his comments that he'd bunched up all his pieces and then white made an inaccuracy, and then all of a sudden black could play e5 in the center and all of his pieces just expanded. And the comment to the move e5 was sproing like an umbrella. And I mean, this has this feeling as well, really. All the pieces compressed, bunched together, looking like they're just huddled together for protection, cowering in the corner, and then all of a sudden, just everything expands, all the pieces come out, and suddenly it's black with some sort of an attack. Quite impressive, really. I mean, also interesting that this move b5, always very double-edged, really, because it gains a little bit of space, but it also it's also a hook for the white pieces to attack on the queen side. You get a4, you get that loose pawn on b5. So yeah, interesting that Stockfish played it so early. Just I suppose didn't want to give white the opportunity to play a4 and a5 and tie down that queen side. Really just wanted that space, and that's always a difficult decision to take. Between do I take space, but also put my structure closer to the opponent so it's easier to attack, or do I hang back and try and try and stay as far away as possible from the opponent. But I guess that in this one, white's, I thought it would be good for Leela because you're playing on both sides of the board, really, but also Stockfish here playing on both sides of the board. I mean, in the end, Stockfish has kind of played more on the queen side, the center. But there was lots of stuff in the PV about knight h7 and then f5. So I think probably from that point of view, Stockfish has been much more successful in its all-round play there. Just making the most of its chances on both sides of the board. But yeah, I don't know. Very nice play. I mean, you've got to say this is. I'm a little bit disappointed that it's neutralised Leela's White's position so easily, but I do have to say this is very nice play. Very not obvious at all, and yeah, certainly wondering about whether then it's worth thinking of playing like this in these positions. I don't know what White might. I was just thinking, maybe after a6, White could maybe consider playing a4 in this position. Just to stop Black from going b5 and threaten a5, just to clamp down on the Black queen side. It might be worth it, because it looks to me as if b5, that was more giving Black space rather than something that could be exploited. So yeah, I don't know, possible, might not be silly. Leela insta-moving. Yeah, look at that evaluation. It's just been a gradual decline. Yeah, somehow you need to try and anticipate this, whether this is just an advantage that's doomed to gradual decline, or an advantage that could have a little bit of a slow ascent. But difficult to know. I was wondering whether the WDL percentages that Leela outputs, whether that could be a clue in some way. That was what I was wondering. Because playing engine games gives some ideas, but somehow it's I mean, as I'm seeing in this Sufi, that it is kind of hit and miss, because the number of times that the Stockfish here in the TCC is playing the moves that I've seen from Stockfish and Leela is not really that often, actually. There's a couple of striking things where you say, wow, that's exactly like I expected. But for example, in the second game, then all of a sudden Leela is playing like Stockfish, which is really really shocking. It's and not at all like Leela. So yeah, it's quite interesting. I mean, maybe you need to not just look at not just put the opening position and then find the evaluation for what does Leela think about this position and what is its expected move, but also just look at the alternatives and then get Leela and Stockfish to analyze those alternative moves as well, and maybe that will give some clue as to what they actually think about all the different moves, because I mean, maybe Leela running once, if on my hardware, searching less deep, of course, than here. Maybe it thinks that one move is good, but if you stimulate it with another move, it might give that a lower evaluation. It might be worth playing around, doing some experiments with that, because it's not easy. It's obviously not easy at all to get this right. To sort of anticipate the whole scala of what slightly different Leelas, or compared to the ones that we test with, of course, more advanced Leelas, later nets, better hardware, what they might play in comparison to what you have. Might be worth looking at that. Tricky. But this has been rather rather depressing experience for Leela somehow. Just starting off reasonably, interested in all that, and just gradually, like a mini balloon, just deflating a little bit. As I said, yeah, just from the opening point of view, not sure about putting a knight on g5 so quickly. Yeah, always the plan that I was most worried about was playing f3, g3, h4, and then keeping the knight somewhere else. Might also be possible to think about a4 just to stop b5. That might be an interesting alternative, but yeah, who knows? Will be interesting to see what Stockfish plays. Should we have a look what Leela-Stockfish on my hardware, what it looks at? Let's have a look at that. Maybe interesting. Oh yeah. Well, let's just have a look at how many nodes we've got. It's pitifully small, of course, compared to the numbers we're used to. But then certainly at low node count, it's looking for. Actually, I can show an analysis board, can't I? What is that analysis board? But it's looking for these plans of going h4, h5, f3, and g3. So actually, the line that when I analysed with Joel that I was most worried about. So that's bishop c4, a6, h4, h5, f3, knight g6, and g3. This sort of thing. Just holding those two knights on f6 and g6, and then we're going to, yeah, we're just going to gradually, we're going to try and hold first of all, and then we're just going to gradually try and gain more and more space. And that was something that that worried us the most as a plan. We weren't really sure whether Black was going to be able to gain any significant counterplay there. So so interesting. I'll just leave that one running, and we can see how that goes. Would be interesting. So Leela's actually looking at something quite exciting there. Looking at bishop h3, check, king g1, rook e8. So actually kind of looking to keep the attack going, in actual fact. And then it's looking at this exchange sacrifice, which starts looking a little crazy somehow. Wow. But Stockfish has decided not to go for that. This was pretty wild somehow, this stuff, but that was Leela's expectation. But now Stockfish has gone bishop takes c3, and what's the current expectation? Rook takes c3, takes, rook c8. Yeah, I mean, we're back into this line basically. And queen c5, takes. And Leela's giving itself a slight advantage, but yeah, strangely enough, Stockfish is just giving itself equal position. You would have thought somehow, oh good lord, sorry, wrong board. Somehow you would have thought that the Stockfish with its opposite colour bishop thinking would suddenly give this a +1 or something, or +1.5 for white, but obviously not that clear, this this evaluation strangeness with Stockfish and opposite colour bishops, because here it's just it's getting this position and it's 0.28. So yeah, you sort of wonder actually what the factor is that's causing it to sometimes give it, something like this 1.4 or something. Really really not sure about that. If we look back at how's Stockfish doing here on my right, okay, so it's moving, once the nodes start getting a little bit higher, it starts, that's 500,000 nodes, it starts going more for the Leela stuff with knight f3 and early knight g5. So that is also quite revealing there. Dum to dum dum dum. So is Leela going to come up with anything extraordinary here? Doesn't look like. Looks like we're just heading along a pretty fixed path to a draw. All right, I'm now going to go and see my parents as always. So I'm going to stop the stream here. Probably stream a little bit late tonight, because we've got more streaming of the online British Championship. I'm going to do that together with Natasha again. But yeah, then I will probably miss the reverse of this game unless it's a very long and hopefully